watered ball, that's all she wants.
And you got your impatiens and your hemanthes.
Yeah.
And your oaks. And your
yeah, my philosophy is if the plant's not hurting something, why pull it out?
Begonias.
It was rip bound and it was drying out twice a day. I just put it in a pan a couple days ago, and now it's coming back to life. It was all shriveled up and wilted from lack of water last week.
I started to sometimes put pots in pots and pots.
I do too.
And that seems to work well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Of course, you can't sell a plant like that, but. You got your syningias. You got your primulas. You got your vareyas. And of course, more begonias. Yep. So there's kind of dappled shade here. They love it, huh?
Begonias to be a really lovely landscape plant. They can get pretty big. I've got some of them in the ground, and they're doing fine in the ground.
They're totally underutilized these days, aren't they?
These are a summer, fall phenomenon because they almost go deciduous in the winter.
Oh.
A couple of these are actually totally deciduous in the winter.
Like they'll just drop the leaves or die all the way back to the ground?
Drop the leaves.
Oh, okay.
Just like a little Japanese maple. And then spring comes, they leaf out from the very tips.
Ah.
And so there's that class of begonia, and then there's other ones that are quite evergreen all winter. And then there's a bunch that go deciduous to the bulb. And the pot's empty all winter. And some of those you have to protect from winter rain because they'll rot the bulb.
Oh, that's always a concern. Huh?
Yeah.
Let me get this nice Malpighia. This is glauca, perhaps?
Galphemia
glauca?
Yeah. It's a pretty common plant in Mexico, but it's not in cultivation very much.
No.
We have one at the Botanical Garden.
We hardly grow any Malpighiaceae at all, huh?
No. And it's a big tropical.
And who lives in this little retired chicken coop? Begonias, Plectranthus, a perennial pepper, Capsicum pubescens, and always more clivias. It looks like passion flower too.
It's my best September nectar plant is this patch of asters. And I let it grow like this, and it thins itself out, and so there are little clearings in it. It just gets covered with bees. I'm not joking. There are hundreds of bees on this for the month of September. And if it's a rainy fall, it can bloom for 2 or 3 months. This year only 1 month. But anyway, the thing is, I cut it down to the ground in late winter, early spring. Before it starts to come up again for next year from the ground, I want to cut it off. It makes it really easy. Just whip up, cut it all cut off. Among it here are all these 15-gallon pots that are, at that time, come March, all you see are these pots, and this is my vegetable garden. And I plant tomatoes, and I had corn and sunflowers and beans, and I do all that in these pots in like first part of April, so the tomatoes and everything have a chance to get pretty big before the aster starts competing for shade. And I don't water the aster at all, but I water all my tomato pots, of course. And so about July, this is about 18 inches tall aster and 3 foot tall vegetables, and the corn might be 6 foot tall. And then the tomatoes and everything finish about the time the asters come up and get big. And I might not, I get all my tomatoes and stuff by before the asters start blooming and taking over, so I get 2 uses of the same space, since space is so valuable.
So Don, this is totally opposite of whether it's ornamental gardening where you want one plant that's compact.
Yeah. I have both things here. I have a big habitat nectar garden and full of spiders and everything else. Plus, it's a big vegetable garden.
And that helps the vegetables.
Oh, and it helps
the beneficials, the humidity, everything.
Yeah, helps the vegetables. So I get really good vegetables. I had really good peppers this year. I picked peppers like crazy for quite a while.
So that's a strange and unusual model for urban agriculture right here.
Yeah. But it works.
It works. That's the cue.
Same. Over here I don't have the aster. But over here I leave some butterfly weeds. And this is asparagus. which I get a lot of asparagus off of them.
Yeah, the leaves sure don't look like an asparagus like you're used to, huh? But let's look at the stalks.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
There might be some fresh stalks coming up. They tend to get a few stalks almost year round that you can eat. But it's a good edible asparagus. And then all those were tomato plants, and I pulled them all out, and now it's planted to beets and onions for the winter. And I've got lettuce starting up from seed, and I'll plant a bunch of lettuce out of it. So and kale, and there's a couple tomatoes left from earlier on. But I leave a lot of this weed because this is the larvae that the red admiral butterfly lays its eggs on.
Periotaria.
Yes. And so I leave quite a bit of it, and I get red admirals, and I've found caterpillars on it before. So,
and you get prolific crops in spite of the fact you have tons of plants.
yes, I get all the tomatoes and everything I can possibly do. So, I wonder if I had just a couple days ago, I also have a lot of fennel, which is all pretty much cut down now. I don't let it go to seed because I don't like having to pull up all the seedlings. But fennel is a really good nectar plant for all those little predatory wasps. They love fennel, but you do have to control it. You don't want to have it all over the place. And so, I mean, I've got it all over the place, but I keep it under control. And then it's for the Anna swallowtail that laid its eggs on. This is a milkweed, and I raised 5 very large monarch caterpillars on this year.
This is that African one, maybe
Yeah.
Physocarpus or
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
like that.
And it kind of dies down in the wintertime.
Look at these balls.
Yes. It kind of dies down in the wintertime. But as long as they're doing, they're having caterpillars in the summer when we're supposed to have caterpillars, it works fine as a milkweed. But there was no, it got big and pupated and left. There was a giant Anna swallowtail caterpillar on this a couple days ago.
And that's the row of those fennels that you keep
Yeah.
meticulously controlled.
Yes. Yes.
So they keep them controlled, Don? You don't have to herbicide them and just dig them out by the roots?
No, I just cut them off.
Oh,
And
that's it, huh?
Yeah.
So simple.
Yeah. And just don't let them go to seed, and you don't get any new ones. And they're fairly short-lived plants. They rarely live over 4 or 5 years. So I've always won a few more extras coming up. So the paths move around. 5 years ago, this patch of fennel was at the other end of this strip. And then that all died, and I got some to come up at this end.
And back here, it looks like you have the magic flower of the Incas with some grapes and all sorts of stuff here, too.
Yeah, and it's odd that this blooms almost year round, and in the spring, it's just a sheet of flowers. It blooms like crazy. So, yeah, all kinds of stuff.
How fun.
Yeah, it's South Africa. This is, again, a pretty drought area that I don't water very much. This is 100% drought over here, and this is a lot of California natives. You probably can't tell, but there are probably 20 species of natives right in this little area.
Oh.
Eriophyllum, I think it's going to come back for the 3rd year. And then various species of buckwheats. And here's a big buckwheat from Southern California.
And you say
ceanothus.
drought tolerant, you don't even water this stuff.
No, this stuff, that's a salvia from San Diego type, Apiana type. And in among it all is the native rose.
Oh.
And so I've got lots and lots of native rose. And in fact, the native rose has gone under the sidewalk and it's starting to come up in my vegetable pots.
So basically the only thing you have to do out here is to cut it back time to time.
Yeah, I cut it back from time to time. Actually, quite a bit. But this is my best year-round nectar plant. This particular, I think it's Cinerarium, Eriogonum cinerarium. It's a Southern California species, and it starts blooming really early, like in May, and it goes on through Christmas because it just keeps opening a few more flowers and a few more flowers. If it wasn't so windy today, you'd see some bees on it. For some reason, flies like this too. There's a fly right up there right now.
And so these are not common in the trade. You see maybe latifolium or
Yeah.
maybe fasciculatum, but you don't see other stuff like this.
No.
And that's just one group.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Yeah, and I got there's arborescences back in there. Or native, that little white.
oh, I see it.
Yeah, yeah. That's another buckwheat. So I've got probably 4 or 5 clones of latifolium and 3 other species here.
So common plants of the chaparral and things, I guess so.
Yeah. This is a little different native rose than the other ones. This one's from the High Sierra, and it's shorter. So.
And there's the little rose hips.
Yep. Yeah. Hey, hi. How you doing? Pretty good, pretty good. And this has a deeper rose flower. That other one's a pale pink flower.
Ooh.
But I planted one plant of it, and now it's just like everywhere.
Oh, really?
Yeah, see?
Is it rhizomatous? It popped
Yeah.
up everywhere,
Oh, yeah,
huh?
it pops up everywhere. And it went across the sidewalk.
Yeah, that's what I noticed about the wild roses here.
Yeah. And so it's coming up in my magnolia like crazy. But it goes deciduous, so it doesn't bother the magnolia. The magnolia blooms like crazy. And so.
And you imagine at some point they find their own root depth and kind of adjust accordingly, huh?
But I didn't really want it to move over to here so much. It's over to here quite a bit. But it's real easy to control. You just cut it off.
That's it, huh?
Yeah. I don't worry about it. You know, so you have to cut it off once a year, whatever.
So it sounds like almost kind of a happy, carefree way to garden.
Yes, pretty much. And this is the asparagus tends to have fruit a lot. And it bloomed twice for me this year. It did a whole crop of berries in June. And then this is a stalk that bloomed in August, and it's got berries again now.
Huh.
So,
Just take them and plant them
yeah.
if you want more.
This is our native Marsh Golden Rod. It was bright yellow flowers a month ago.
A Soledado.
Yes, a Soledado. Well, it's another genus. It's the Marsh, and it has to be wet. And it's in a pot that stands in water. And these are various native juncus, genus juncus. There's 3 different species in this pot. And I let the water go tiny bit dry to get rid of mosquitoes, and then I fill it back up with water.
Oh,
So, you know, 7 out of 8 days it's full of water.
so it takes
These
care
are
of
water
the plant.
plants. These grow in streams, and you can't grow them without having them being in standing water, pretty much.
So you can have
there's like 5 or 6 natives right in here.
how fun.
Oh, but this is my little wet natives section. These are all wet natives, including a mint that grows in. Rub and smell that one.
Let's see. Well, that's some strong stuff, huh?
So it's one of our native mints. Pycnanthium.
How fun.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time, Don, and thank you for sharing with us your garden space.
Yes. And my little kitties.
We'll say goodbye to the kitty. That's it.
Yeah.
Have anything to say? Nope.
Jojo.
It's a cat still.
Okay.
So here's the contrast. We're on the same block here, but there's some dried up grasses here. But kind of like a little desert. This here is a different kind of desert. Here's your common landscaping and ornamental horticulture. You got your chip mulch, you got your drip irrigation. You got basics, Tragulospermum, Lantana, Pennisetum, Salvia leucantha, and a little walking path. But in its own way, it's like a desert. This here is pomegranate and boxwood. Looks like some tea tree, Leptospermums in the back. Here's abundant nature in all her messy glory abundance.